Hello and welcome to Curiosity Taught the Cat. I'm Jack,
I'm Julia.
and today we are going to be talking about the bullet ant. Now, before I proceed with starting the slideshow, I'm doing it right now. I'm giving a trigger warning. There are going to be pictures of bugs. There are going to be pictures of ants. I know some people can get real squeamish, and these pictures are big. It's going to take up the entire screen. I'm just warning people now. So if this is something you need to just listen to and not watch, feel free. We will also be talking about like bug bites and different things like that. Which, if you're a little squeamish about that, we're just letting you know now. But since it's an insect one, and it being an insect that bites and stings, we just want to let you know right off the bat before we get into it, so that way everybody knows and everybody can do with that information what they will. But I'll let you go and get started with name stuff.
Yeah, so it actually has a lot of nicknames, primarily just where it's found. Right off the bat, it's found in South America. So it has a lot of different names from different countries in South America. So one of its fun nicknames is called the 24-hour ant, which I won't give it away now because it's kind of a fun fact, but I'll get into it later why it's called that. Another one is called the big black ant, which is a translation from one of the country's names for it, as well as the one wounding deeply, another fun one, which we'll get into later. It's also just called the bullet, as well as the lesser giant hunting ant, as well as the conga ant. So it has a lot of nicknames out there.
Yeah, and most of those are translation ones. I don't want to go through potentially butchering some of these translations. So those are what some of the names are translated to English. But like Julie said, as for where it's found throughout Central and South America. It's commonly found in the wet neotropical realm. So they're found in Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Costa Rica from the north, and then in Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, and Brazil in the South America. So colonies are found in lowland areas at elevations ranging from sea levels to all the way over 2,000 feet. And some specimens have actually been discovered and collected at elevations of almost 5,000 feet in the La Amistad International Park. So they're active all over the forest, from the floor to the treetops. They prefer being in trees, but they can be found on the floor of these forests as well. It's usually found on lianas and tree trunks close to the ground. And up to 4 bullet ant nests can be found per hectare in the forest of Central and South America. And the workers are extremely territorial, and we'll get into that sort of stuff, how they behave with that. But that's just to give an idea of how abundant these ants are. They are all over the place, and they are very densely populated.
And then just getting into what it looks like. I know we have the pictures up here. It is a reddish brown color, and it has some like yellow you can see on the end of its appendages. It does have like a lighter color to it. The best description I saw is that it kind of looks like a wasp without wings. Is like the body shape for it, which I think is a fairly great description for it. But as for size, it can grow from 1 to 1.5 inches, which doesn't sound like a lot, but for an ant, that is massive.
Yes.
Most ants are under half an inch in size, so this is a very large ant. And it's the second largest ant behind the greater giant hunting ant. So it's the second largest ant in the entire world.
Yeah. And so some of the physical characteristics, as you can see in some of these pictures, and Julia named a few. So like she said, they resemble wingless wasps. They also have stingers and very large and powerful jaws. So the stinger is similar to where a bee stinger or a spider stinger might be. It's at the end of them in the like tail region is where it would be. And they will sting when provoked. And we'll talk more about the sting. We'll be talking about it a lot actually. So when one ant stings, it will release chemicals into the air that signal other ants in the vicinity to sting repeatedly. And then also you'll see in some of these pictures, the bullet ant is hairier than a lot of other hunting ants. It's a very hairy ant.
And then just getting into what it eats. So like we said, the colonies. They live in colonies like most ants do, but they consist of several hundred of individuals. and they will work and forage. They usually like things like smaller bugs and insects, as well as nectar and sap. But they'll all bring this back to the colony where they will eat it. But this is pretty much all that they eat is just things like that.
And as for what eats it, there are, as it being an ant, there are very many things that eat it. Pretty much anything bigger than it is something that's going to is going to eat it. But things of note are, there is a predator to the ant called the Greta Otto, which is the glasswing butterfly. And it will attempt combat with the bullet ant by producing these chemical extracts during the larval stage that are unpalatable to these ants. So the ants don't want to take bites of this butterfly because it's got chemicals on it that don't taste good to them. And some other interesting things are the phorid fly. And just a warning, this can get pretty nasty. So if you need to take a pause or skip over this, please do. So maimed ants, so ones that are injured, will become the victim, or will often become the victim of a phorid fly. And it is a parasite of the bullet ant, and it will target these injured ants and will lay eggs inside them while the ant is still alive. So that way, when they hatch, they have a living thing to eat their way out of.
And then as for the bullet ant and its sting, which we mentioned a lot, it has one of the most painful insect stings or bites that you can encounter in Central America. And we'll get into more details about like how hard it actually does sting and the after effects of that and sometimes like that. But they will fall from tree branches and attack when they are encountered by a large, frightening creature such as a human. Like we said, they're very defensive. They're not actively aggressive, but they are very defensive for their colonies and for the queen ants and things like that.
So just a quick how the bite and the sting works. So what they will do is they, like I said, they have big, strong mandibles. So what they will do, they will bite, and then once the mandibles are securely squeezing whatever it is they're biting, they will turn their abdomen to sting at the same time, and they will just repetitively sting whatever they have got in their jaws. And the kind of venom that they excrete is called a panerotoxin. It's a type of paralyzing neurotoxic peptide, and it will cause a local sting reaction. So what we mean by this is that the pain is only located in the area of the bite rather than spreading to the rest of the body.
And then as for like the mating and courtship and things like that, we don't really have any information on the bullet ant in this area. It's probably because they're just so vast, as well as in such a small area, and also just hard to get to. So we don't really have any information on that, sadly. But we do know that their lifespan, on the higher end, they can live up to about 90 days.
Yep. And then getting into more behavioral things, they are ants. They are extremely colonial. So they have a colony. They are working in tandem very well. That's what ants do. So the colony burrows a nest with different entrances on the ground between tree buttresses. Some arboreal nests have also been discovered. So workers will guard the nest against vertebrates and other insects, including other bullet ants. And while these ants do live in colonies, individuals will search for food alone. So they go out on lone missions to go grab food and bring it back. And foraging workers hunt insect prey and look for plant sap usually between dusk and dawn. And they also may look for food among the trees during the day if it is cloudy.
And then as for communication, they are ants, but they do have communication through pheromones. So like we mentioned earlier with the sting, and it communicates to all the other ones to also sting. They leave little pheromones pretty much wherever they go. It helps other ants in the colony find them, as well as help them find their way back to the colony. So this is how they kind of not lose their way.
Yep. And then as for population size, they are an ant in a large forested area, so they're doing pretty well. They are on the IUCN, they are listed as least concern. Their numbers are doing plenty fine right now. The biggest threat to them, though, is habitat loss with deforestation that goes on caused by humans. So that would be the biggest threat, but they are not, they're not a animal of worry right now.
And that wraps up all the general information. Like I said, we don't have a lot on them, but we do have a lot of fun facts on them. So if you want to just jump in with it, go ahead.
I can go ahead. So the first one that we have, we're going to be talking about the the entomologist, that someone who studies insects, Justin O. Schmidt. So Justin O. Schmidt is a very popular entomologist who has come up with a scale called the Schmidt's Sting Pain Index. So he lets various insects from around the world bite and sting him, and he will measure the intensity of pain that these insects inflict upon him and rate them on his scale. So, to give a point of reference for everybody, a honeybee, I think most people will have at least is an idea of the encounter of being stung by a honeybee. So, their where they fall on the scale is a 2. That's what the sting of a bee falls on. The bullet ant has a sting that has the highest rating on Schmidt's Pain Index, and it is over 4.0. That is beyond. That is the highest rating it can get, and it is beyond that. Justin Schmidt compares the pain like walking over flaming charcoal with a 3-inch nail embedded in your heel. So it is extremely painful. The only other insect that is considered to have a sting anywhere near as painful as the bullet ant is the tarantula hawk wasp.
And then just continuing with this information that we have on them, I mentioned earlier that they're called the 24-hour ant. This is because usually the pain that it leaves with this sting lasts for 24 hours. So, like again, comparing to a bee sting, we think of that, it's, an hour, maybe a couple hours at most that you feel this kind of pain. But this is full day worth of pain that this ant can inflict on you. Some of the people that got stung by them compare it to being shot, hence the name bullet ant. But it's causes it's gives you burns, like waving burns, throbbing, all-consuming pain that continues for this day, like I mentioned.
And like a lot of other venoms in the world, the venom of the bullet ant is actually being investigated for medicinal use as well as warfare. So some medicinal examples that we have. There have been multiple studies linked to bullet ant venom being used to treat rheumatism as well as arthritis, because ant venom is known to have anti-inflammatory properties, so it has been used to potentially help treat rheumatism as well as arthritis.
And then a really cool fact that actually there's like a picture right here that I'm about to describe. So if you look at this picture, there are local tribes and people of Brazil that will use this the bullet ant and its sting intentionally as part of their initiation rites to become warriors. So the ants will be rendered unconscious, and then they'll kind of wove these gloves that they'll put these bullet ants into. And then these young people trying to be warriors will wear these quote unquote gloves. And as the bullet ants wake up, they will sting them repeatedly. And this will go on for about 5 to 10 minutes. They have to keep the glove on. And they will do this multiple times over months and years, up to 20 times. And, we're thinking this is crazy, but this is just part of their tradition and culture. The only kind of protection that they have is that they'll rub charcoal powder on it. And it's just to kind of help reduce the amount of stings that they get. But this is it's a really cool thing to like learn about other people's cultures and how in depth these kind of animals can get into them.
Yeah, we may look at it as something like very like gruesome and barbaric, but to them this is a part of their culture. This is what they've done. It is very much a way of showing like an initiation almost of this is a warrior. This is a tough person. So we want to treat it with the respect that it deserves. It is a very interesting aspect of these people in Brazil. And I think that pretty much wraps up everything we have on the bullet ant. I don't know if you had anything else.
No, I have that's all I have.
Yeah, we appreciate everybody listening. Be sure to tune in next week where we're going to be talking about the okapi.